The fight of grief. Grief undoubtedly is a fight, and it may be the biggest fight of your life. And the question that I have for you is, are you ready? And I'm playing, can you hear it? Eye of the Tiger from Survivor to remind you that this is a fight and you've got to get into fight mode. Because like I said, this is likely going to be the biggest fight of your life. But grief is a fight. It's a fight every day. Sometimes it's a fight just to get out of bed. But here's the thing, as I was talking to someone today about why I got into grief, why I make these videos, why I formed Grief Inspired, and what I hope to get out of it and what I hope to give from it. And I was taken back to that day, the day when I decided that I was going to fight, that I wasn't going to fall victim to grief, that I was going to find a way to figure it out. And I had no idea how or why. And it took me probably a good 2 years before I got on the path. And if you've seen my grief journal, that's called A Grief Journal, that's available on Amazon. It has a path on the front with some trees covering it and some light in the distance, because grief is a path, grief is a journey that you have to fight, and you have to choose to walk down that path, and you have to choose to fight your way out of this. Because if you're not choosing to fight, you're choosing to settle. You're choosing to be a victim. You're choosing to suffer for likely longer than you need to. And if you're here and you like my videos, then you're probably in the right place. And that probably means that you want to fight. And you want to fight because you want to learn how to get out of the sadness, how to get past the depression, how to move on from the guilt and the shame, and figuring out how to forgive yourself, and needing hope that you can get through this, that there is light on the horizon, that down that path, if you walk on the path, there is hope, and that you don't have to do it alone, and that there's people here to walk with you, and that you don't have to be a victim. And there is a way to control some of the things that are going on when it feels so uncontrollable. And so I want to encourage you today to fight. And I learned recently the importance that there are so many things that you learn in grief that you can take on to the rest of your life. This is a learning experience that will benefit you for years to come if you do the work. And one of them is what I was being taught today, because I have mentors that I follow, because you have to continue to grow. And the conversation was around focusing to fight rather than focusing on the circumstances that you might be in at this moment. Yes, if you are grieving, you are missing someone that you love deeply. You are in pain. You are likely in an uncertain place, fearful of what the future might be. There's a lot of change going on. You're likely tired. You're likely unsure of everything, wondering, like, what is this thing that they call the new normal? And maybe you're wondering whether or not you can get through it. And so the conversation needs to move from focusing on your exact circumstance to focusing on the fight. And when I talk about that, it's saying, what can I do to learn more, grow more, figure out how to move through this thing called grief, so that I can get down that path and make it to the light at the end of the path, or at the end of the tunnel, as they say. And so I want to encourage you to focus on the fight rather than focusing on the circumstances. You know, sometimes when there's a death that happens, and maybe it's something that happened over a short period of time, you know, a couple of days or a week, And we spend years focusing on that week versus focusing on all the time that we had with the person up until that week. And so there's this wonderful phrase that I heard that says this: struggles visit the strong. Struggles come to the strong, but they stay with the weak. And you need to fight. And you need to learn how to be strong through grief. That's what that means to me. And so what does that mean? That means not rolling around in your grief, not wallowing in your grief, not continuing to focus on how bad you feel, but rather saying, how can I feel better? How can I move through this? How can I process this way? How can I find meaning? And what does this mean for me in my life? How can I honor the person that I've lost? How can I move forward? That's focusing on the fight rather than focusing on the circumstances. And I call it grief inspired for a couple of reasons, but one of it is because I want to be able to inspire you to know that if you focus on the fight and you don't give in to your circumstances that are happening right now, and you remember that this is not forever, that you can get through it, that you can be happy again, that there is hope, that there is a path. And that path is lined with tools and skills to help you along the way. And whether it's learning about grief and educating yourself, or looking within and understanding how this affects you and how your grief affects you, and how you start to see the world differently because you're starting to change, because grief has changed you, and it will. These things are all the outcomes of grief. And that's where you want to shift your perspective. You want to shift your focus. Struggles visit the strong, but they stay with the weak. I don't want you to be weak. I don't want you to feel more weak than you already do, because this is a challenging, vulnerable time, and I get it. Because I know, because I was there. What I want to encourage you to not do is roll around in it and focus only on what you've lost and not on what you still have, and how you can take your relationship with your loved one, whoever that was, and how can you put that out in the world? How can you share with people why you grieve so deeply? If you didn't love them, you wouldn't be grieving. That's the fundamental foundation of grief. The reason why you grieve is because you love someone, and that love has been seemingly taken away. And what I'm saying is it's not taken away, that it's still there, and you have an opportunity to grow that love. And with all the tools and the things that I share with you on these videos and my grief journal, it's to help you. If you haven't picked up my journal, you can find it on Amazon. There's a link below. Get it. Let's work through it. There's other videos that I have that talk about how to work through it and how to use it in an effective way. Ask me questions. Talk it out. Let's figure it out. Let's do it together. You're not alone in your grief. So today, my message for you is to focus on the fight rather than focusing on your circumstances. And when you focus on the fight, things fundamentally change. Your life becomes different. You become stronger. You become more committed, right? Your energy starts to shift. Music will do that, right? And it'll teach you how to get back, how to get out, how to move forward, because that's what you want. You want to move forward. You want to learn to grow. You want to learn how to heal so that you can be okay with the loss, be informed by the loss, learn from it, and then carry it out into anything else that you do in the world. It will benefit you in the long run. You will become a stronger, more compassionate person. You will know yourself more. You will understand the world around you and what you value more. And you just might interact with the world in a way that's different, that's beneficial, that's serving others, that brings you peace and calm and serenity and a knowing and an understanding that all is going to be okay and you can do this thing. And that's what I want for all of you. That's what I want Grief Inspired to do for you. So please remember this today. Grief is a fight, but focus on the fight rather than on the circumstances that you're in. Take care for now.